I desperately need a bounce back win in this tournament. Welcome to my round 6 game analysis against this underrated kid, Adam Nawalaniec. I was the white pieces and I started this game off with e4. My opponent went c5. And let me tell you, this kid has been beating players rated way over him, and it was tough to prepare against this kid. It's very, very difficult. A lot of diversity in the openings, but I had seen that he played the Najdorf twice in the past 6 months, so I prepared intensely against Najdorf. And then at some point last night at 3 a.m., I came up that in this position, the Najdorf on a6, Magnus Carlsen mains something in this position on online chess that is completely different from any Najdorf I've ever played in my life. And I played this crazy opening called the freak attack, which is very fitting for the amount of craziness it is. Instead of going for my typical f3 in the Najdorf, I went for rook g1. First time I ever play this over the board, online, first time I ever play this. Rook g1. In the Najdorf, white wants to push this pawn to g5 and kick the knight as soon as possible before black plays b5, b4 and kicks our knight. Rook g1 accelerates that in advance to leverage g4 and g5 before development is complete, just to storm the black pieces in the beginning of the game. e5 was played. There are many moves you can play here, h6, h5, b5, e5. The main move is e5, which is what my opponent plays, kicking my knight, typical Najdorf move anyways, so like this is completely normal. And then bishop e7 is played, developing. So I go with the plan. Again, I'm off book after bishop e7, so I'm completely freestyle, but it's okay. It's okay. I know the plans of the position, which is sometimes even better than knowing the specific moves of an opening. g4, I want to go g5, kick the knight. So h6 is played to prevent that, and I go h4 to go g5. I'm enforcing it. I'm all in. My opponent plays knight h7. You know when your opponent plays a bad move, you know it's bad, you don't know why it's bad. And here, I spend from an hour and 30, I think I spent 15 minutes trying to find the best continuation from white. Because I know that I'm better, I know that knight h7 is a passive move, moving a piece twice in the opening, and just merely attacking this pawn here, but I don't know how to proceed. And after 15 minutes, an extremely long think, I come up with one of the nicest combinations in my career so far. I play g5 here. g5 sacks a pawn, right? Because if I play h5, like I'm giving the g5 square. So I sack a pawn, h takes, and now I play knight d5. So like just full on giving a pawn, like gambiting a pawn in the opening. It's basically a gambit at this point. Knight d5 has per goal to threaten bishop e3 and bishop b6 to just like win. Like I would have knight c7 there and win. It looks long term, but it's not even that long term. Let's say you go g4 to preserve this pawn. I would have bishop e3 threatening this. Knight d7 is the only move to defend, and now you're interfering with the defense of this g4 pawn. I take here and I'm threatening g7. It's already super good for the white pieces. So this is very dangerous. If you take here, I had bishop e3, knight here, and already the black pieces are super boxed in, and now rook takes g7, and you can't push this pawn because the knight is like blocking your bishop here. It's really, really strong. I'm threatening queen h5 things with a win. So you have to play knight f6, queen f3, putting pressure on this. You can't take my knight because of mate. And I would just like establish such a strong, like it's visibly strong. I hope it is. So I go knight d5, my opponent plays bishop e6, and I go takes, just taking back this pawn, and now I've won back the pawn. Like on knight takes g5, I have knight takes e7 first, winning this knight, queen takes, bishop takes, and I win a piece. And on bishop takes here, I have rook takes g5, which is crazy. Knight takes, bishop takes, queen takes, knight c7, the queen is deflected off c7. Forky, king here has to defend the pawn, and now after knight takes, I don't see how, after something like this, that I don't have knight c7, I'm back into action and I'm up the exchange. I'm up the exchange from the opening, bro. Like that good of preparation. So bishop e6 takes, and I preserve the pawn. Like knight f8 is played. Knight f8, another move where I'm just like, this is slow. It's a slow move for black, and it's the third time a knight moves in 12 moves. So you've spent 25% of your moves with this knight, and it's on f8. It's not even a good knight. The aim here is to block my pawn with knight g6, because here I'm threatening g6. Like literally, I'm taking here, I'm threatening g6. You can't take my pawn, I'm threatening g6. It's really nice. I'm really excited about this game. I don't know if you realize. So knight f8 is played. I go bishop e3, threatening bishop b6 and to win. Knight d7 to defend the b6 square, and I go queen d2 to castle long and just play out this advantage. I have an advantage here. I have a spatial advantage on the king side, and I have a really nice placed knight on the queen side. And while the black pieces are not that well placed, that also counts as an advantage for the white pieces. Bishop takes. The black pieces want to make me lose a tempo, which is kind of a good idea, although b7 is kind of a weakness. And here after g6, I think it's to stop g6 things for myself. Here I can actually take. I really contemplated this for a long time, but here taking is actually not bad. And I feared things like this and things on my castling king, and I really didn't love this, so I went for just like a patient move, knight a5 to take on b7, and also to go knight c4 to attack d6, which is really, really nice. I thought this was a nice maneuver. The engine doesn't think so. It says it's a miss. Queen c7 attacking my c2 pawn, counter-attacking in this position, and I was contemplating queen takes here, but it loses a piece, and then I was contemplating knight takes here, and this is actually really sound, and I was calculating why this shouldn't be played by me. Rook b8, bishop takes, and I defend this once more. Queen takes, and I have a tactic. Knight takes d6 check, and I pick up this rook here on a8. I don't know why I didn't take here. I really wanted to. I was just scared. Like I was scared. Usually you don't take these pawns when you're about to castle on open lines. That's basically the theme. But knight takes b7, and the top engine says +3 in this position. I went for c3. Again, patience. But after rook b8, the engine gives an equal sign. Knight c5 was played, and now I liquidate into an endgame up a pawn, while still giving back a pawn here. So bishop takes, pawn takes, queen takes b7, and now c3 is played. I had seen this. If queen takes, it's not check anymore on my king, so I can do takes. So this is forced. And now we get into an endgame in which I'm up a pawn. You can't do this to try to win the pawn here because I have bishop takes a6. And so knight e6 to try to win my weak pawn. You see, we go into this endgame, I'm up a pawn, but my opponent has a lot of weaknesses to pick at. This g5 pawn, this e4 pawn by extension, and this f2 pawn is just laying backwards. So here I castle, and I was not going to castle, but I finally decided on castling. If rook here, the knight takes and threatens knight f3, which I didn't love. So I castle, my rook is on an open file, it's so beautiful, I love the white pieces, and I'm even giving this with check. That's how much I love castling here, because after bishop takes, I was originally going to play king c2 as well, and now I changed it because rook h2 is just too strong, and my pawn is pinned, and I don't want to give up this rook. So I go king b1, I keep the pieces on the board. And now rook h2 is not that strong, like it's not pinning my pawn that much, and I don't love it for black. Bishop h4 was played, and I gained a little bit of confidence here. Try to find the move that I found. It's a really, really nice move, and I was really happy with finding it because I think it's hard to find. Bishop h4 is a snipey move aimed at my b2 pawn, my f2 pawn, pardon, but it's not really forced, and it's not really good. And if you can play a move that's active, you can force this out of here. And I played bishop c4, which is such a nice move. Here, if you take, there's an even better move than I saw in the game, but this is the even better move. Like rook here, the bishop moves, and then knight here, and it's completely over. But I saw rook g2, like just attacking this bishop, and wherever the bishop moves, I have bishop takes, pawn takes, rook takes, which is so strong. And I have an extra pawn in this endgame, but not only that, black has three pawn islands consisting of 4 isolated pawns. It's like terrible. So I'm just gonna pick up these pawns one by one and easily win this, easily. So my opponent seeing this has to refrain back and go rook a7. I don't have time to take here because of rook takes, and I can't mess up these pawns anymore. Knight d6 doesn't bring that many fruitful things. After king e7, I think black is completely fine. So I come up with the only great move, which is knight a5. A knight a5 still assures me that I'm threatening this weakening and winning a pawn, and at the same time is threatening knight c6, so I win a pawn here with a fork. So I'm threatening two things at once. That is very strong in chess. Bishop d8. If you take here, it's still the same plan. Rook g2, bishop here, and I probably take here, and I probably even go like this. I lay off taking this, or I take this first, and I threaten this, either or. So my opponent goes bishop d8, and now I go knight c6, winning this e5 pawn, and I take. But, although I've been looking at bishop takes e6 all this time, I looked at it here, but it didn't work. And I looked at it previously, it didn't work. In this position, since the rook is on c7, preparing to take my knight on c6, I actually have a win with bishop takes e6 immediately, taking the defender off of d8. If you take back, now I'm just winning a rook. And now if you take my knight, I have check. Oh! And I'm winning. I completely missed this. Instead, I go for the pawn. I'm threatening this again. My opponent attacks my knight, and I sack my knight on g6 to win a pawn. Another pawn. I love pawns. Rook h2. Now I just trade this, and I go e5. I want to box in this bishop. I want absolutely zero counterplay on b2, and I want zero counterplay with these rooks. So I just do my best. Bishop g7, and now I defend. Oh no, I counterattack. I don't even defend this pawn. I counterattack on e6. Threatening this fork, bishop takes, and I take here, and now rook here. And here I observe that I have a tactic. I observed this a few moves back. I have a tactic here. The bishop and king are perfectly lined up on this open file. So what better move than to tempo this rook here and prevent any rook here to defend this bishop? The rook moves, and now I just pin this bishop, and it's completely winning. Like if you try to defend this, I have rook d5. And if you try to defend this more, I have f5, and I'm winning a piece. Rook takes f4, knight c6, GG's. So, after rook e1, my opponent goes with something that is very, very interesting. Rook takes f2. This is a counter-attacking move to try to get a forced draw by repetition out of me. Rook takes b2 check, rook a2, and just slide these rooks along here and force a threefold repetition. I have to take this bishop, and here it is white to play and win. That's literally what I told myself in the game. At the clock, you have 6 seconds, you have 6 minutes and 50 seconds. If you want to test yourself, put a timer on the board, see if you can play like me, 6 minutes and 50 seconds to find the win for white. It took me, I think, half of this time to find the win, and when I found the win, it felt like $1,000,000. In this position, I recycled my blunder from round 2, if you want to go check that game to know what I'm talking about. From game 2, I recycled the fact that I had a king move that was a silent king move that drew. I don't know if you remember. And here I have a silent king move that wins. And that king move is king a1. Learn from your mistakes, people, and remember them, because they drive wins in the future. This is the second or third time in my OTB journey I use a specific failure from another game and use it as a strength in another game, in a further game. King a1 is a brilliant move in my opinion. I put this on, this is self-determined. It's a brilliant move in my opinion. Because if you take this pawn, it's not check anymore. It's the only winning move. Here, it is not check, and your rook is on b2, so I'm axing my king against your rook. Now I have basically a ladder checkmate. So rook f1 check, king g8, rook g5 check, forcing the king to the corner. And now once the king is on this corner, symmetry with this rook on h2, I have this fabulous kill rook h5. And my opponent had not seen this. When I did play it, he did see it. And here, if rook takes, I take this rook and I retain up a piece. There are no drawing things for the black pieces. It looks easy to play, but really it took, how much time did it take for me? Oh, it took 3 minutes to find that I had king a1 here. Okay, so it was like 3 moves ago, yeah, and then it took a minute to like really clarify that I had a win. This is just about any chess.com puzzle you'll see on the rated puzzles that are like 3,000 ELO. This, I am sure, is a chess.com puzzle. You need to take here and then you need to find king a1. I hope you enjoyed this. I really enjoyed playing this game. This was a big few because this was the type of opponent that is beating me this tournament. These underrated kids that are better than their rating, and if you lose like 17 points and it's the end of the world. I managed to win and salvage my rating, and now I'm only at -7 FIDE ELO. I have 4 out of 6, and I already know my pairing for the next round. I am playing an international master. Finally, I'm playing a player with a better rating than me, first time of this tournament. It was about time. It's round 7. See you for round 7 next game. Have a wonderful day.